I would like to invite Mrs. Kaoru Fukaya of JETRO, Japan External Trade Organization. She works as Vice Director of this governmental institution, and she will tell us about the future cooperations, about the opportunities to cooperate in business.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kaoru Fukaya from JETRO Warsaw. I am not from an academy, but from a public sector. I'd like to thank the University of Łódź for giving us this opportunity today. I'd like to introduce the business environment in Japan and the benefits of Japan-EU EPA. So just a brief introduction of our organization, JETRO, Japan External Trade Organization. JETRO is a Japanese government-related organization which promotes trade and investment between Japan and foreign countries. We have more than 70 offices overseas and have regional offices in almost all the prefectures in Japan. We help Japanese companies to export to Poland and invest in Poland, as well as Polish companies to invest in Japan. So this is the agenda of my presentation today. I will talk about the current trade situation between Poland and Japan and the benefits of Japan-EU EPA. Then I will talk about business environment, current FTA situation in Japan, and the improvement of business environment. And finally, I will briefly introduce our activities to support foreign companies to invest in Japan. So my first topic is about Japan-EU EPA. Japan has an export surplus to Poland and exports to Poland 6 times as much as Poland exports to Japan. The values in Polish export to Japan grows steadily and reached the highest in 2018, last year. The values in Polish imports from Japan increased rapidly in 2017, mainly due to the increase of import of cars. And it also reached the highest in 2018, last year. The fact that Poland imports a lot from Japan means that there is a potential that Polish companies and consumers may benefit from Japan-EU EPA, because this agreement can lower or eliminate tariffs which are imported on the products when imported from Japan. So the biggest trading partner for Poland is Germany, followed by China and Russia. Japan ranked 18th in import and 40th in export last year. Main goods of export and import are machinery and transport equipment. Machinery and transport equipment accounts for 56% of values in imports from Japan. Polish export of food and live animals account for 6% last year. In 2017, the export of apple juice to Japan increased by 3.6 times. Japan now has what is called a 2 mega FTA, which is Japan-EU EPA, Economic Partnership Agreement, and TPP-11, Trans-Pacific Partnership between 11 countries. Japan-EU EPA entered into force on 1st February this year, and TPP-11 entered into force 30th December last year. For many products which are traded between Japan and EU and Japan and TPP-11 countries, the tariff is going to be reduced or completely eliminated. According to the Japanese government estimation, both FTA and EPA are expected to boost Japanese economy by 13 trillion yen. Japan-EU EPA is estimated to increase Japanese economy by 1% and increase about 290,000 jobs in Japan. This is a list of top 10 products of Polish export to Japan last year. The tariff has been eliminated for all the top 10 products. Among these top 10 products, there are turbojets, motor cars, ceramics, artificial graphite, laser blades, parts of automotive cars, tires, and molds. So this is a list of top 20 products of Polish import from Japan. Particularly, motor cars, which ranks in the second in this table, was imposed 10% of tariffs. But after the entry into force of this agreement, the tariff is going to be completely eliminated. This table is just a mathematical simulation of how much tariff eventually Poland can save according to the trade data as of 2016 and the tariff rate which was imposed before EU-Japan EPA. Although it's just a simulation, Poland can save about 18 million euros eventually just for its top 20 importing products from Japan. But in order to benefit from this EPA, it is necessary that the product traded meets a certain standard defined in the agreement. It is not that all the products can benefit from the agreement, if only it is traded between Japan and EU. Here I would like to show the main steps you should take if you want to utilize Japan-EU EPA. First, specify the HS code or CN code of exporting product. Then check the tariff rate which is imposed to that product, namely most favored nation rate, MFN rate, and EU-Japan EPA rate. Then please check these two rates, and if the EU-Japan EPA rate is lower than MFN, then you would think about utilizing EPA because it benefits more. Third, please check if the product meets the rules of origin. For example, it is necessary that an agricultural product must be wholly obtained inside EU, or a machinery needs to meet a specific requirement of processing, or percentage of materials whose origin is EU or Japan. Then lastly, please prepare necessary documents to prove that the product meets the rules of origin. We have created a guidebook to explain technical steps to utilize this EPA, such as how to search for the tariff rate and how to check if the products traded meet the rules of origin. Although it is only in Japanese language and mainly focuses on exporting from Japan, I am sure that it is going to be a useful guideline for your trading partners in Japan. So if you need this guideline, please let me know. It is completely made public on our website. Japanese businesses expect to increase export of some food products, including Japanese sake, as well as automotives and its parts. Japanese consumers expect to benefit from the reduced tariff of European wine and cheese especially. We asked some Polish organizations what they expect from this EPA. Polish Chamber of Commerce answered that they think this agreement will create opportunities for both European and Japanese companies, especially small and medium-sized ones, to expand their markets, and then Polish Chamber of Commerce expects this agreement leads to Polish companies doing business more actively in Japan, especially in the field of agriculture, automotive, machine and medicine and bio, and IT. Special Economic Zone of Łódź answered that they see the potential of Polish-Japanese cooperation in the field of energy, chemistry, and finance. We JETRO organized some events to promote the utilization of EPA. For example, the tariff has been eliminated for Japanese sake thanks to the EPA. So in order to promote the export of Japanese sake to Poland, we have organized seminar, business matching, and promotional reception last September in Warsaw. In February this year, we invited one Polish alcohol buyer and 2 Polish chefs to Japan to organize business matching, site visits to sake breweries, and food pairing seminars. To promote the utilization of EPA and increase export, first of all, it is very important to meet the potential clients and partners. So that's why we organize these kinds of events. So next topic is about business environment. As most of you may already know, Japan's GDP is ranked 3rd in the world, following the United States and China. Japanese GDP exceeds 500 trillion yen, and it's a leading economy that has large-scale economic power. Even in the year 2030 and 2050, Japan remains to be in the top 5 economies in the world, although by then India and Indonesia are expected to exceed Japan. Even local regions in Japan offer enormous and attractive markets. One local region in Japan has an economy as large as one nation in Europe. For example, Kanto region, which includes Tokyo, has an economy as large as that of Italy as a whole. Shikoku region, which is a smaller island in Japan, has an economy as large as that of Hungary as a whole. Real GDP of Japan is growing steadily. Although we had some fluctuations between just after and before the increase of consumption tax rate from 5% to 8%, in the last 2 years, it has recorded a moderate growth. According to the preliminary data of the Cabinet Office, the real GDP growth last year was 0.7%, and its main driver was domestic demand. According to the estimates of Japanese government, real GDP growth was expected to be somewhere close to 1.5% between 2018 and 2021. If the effect of the economic policy is reflected at a feasible pace, the government estimated the real GDP growth to reach 2% in the first half of 2020. If the economy grows at the current potential growth rate, it is estimated that the real GDP growth is to be around 1% in the first half of 2020. International organizations such as IMF and World Bank estimate the growth rate to be lower than that of the Japanese government. Noticeable element of the current Japanese economy is that the unemployment rate is quite low and the labor market is in a status of almost fully employed since late 2014. According to the latest data, in December 2018, the unemployment rate was 2.4%. Jobs to applicants ratio surpassed 1.0 in 2013, which means that there are more job posts than job seekers. So now the recruitment of the workforce as well as the improvement of productivity is getting a big issue in Japan. Okay, something wrong with the slide, but particularly shortage of IT human resource is getting a big issue in Japan. In 2030, the shortage is expected to reach almost 800,000. Due to this background, more and more Japanese companies are interested in IT workers in Poland because Poland is one of the countries which have high-skilled IT workers. So we JETRO organized a digital industry delegation in Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary last month so that Japanese companies are able to better understand the digital industry in this area. 23 Japanese participants from 17 companies joined the delegation. In Poland, 17 Polish local companies joined the event, and they made presentations about their own businesses and joined networking with Japanese companies. We visited Google campus, which is a supporting facility of Google for startups, and the accelerator called the Hub. Since the launch of the Abe administration in December 2012, major economic data such as real GDP, stock prices, business conditions measured by Bank of Japan, unemployment rate, and CPI growth rate have all improved as shown on this slide. So next topic is about FDI in Japan. Japan, or Tokyo, is ranked as one of the top countries or cities in the Asian regions by the international organizations or consultancy firms. It is evaluated as the best in terms of innovation ecosystem as well as travel tourism competitiveness index, and second best in terms of foreign direct investment confidence index and Asia Pacific City of the Future. According to the OECD report, it is said that the return of FDI in Japan is high. That is, Japan is a profitable market. According to the OECD report, as of 2014, Japan ranked third on the rates of return on inward FDI in total, actually followed by Poland in the fourth. When it comes to the rates of return on inward FDI in the service sector, Japan ranked first and far more profitable than other countries. This actually matches the evaluation of Japanese markets by the foreign affiliated companies, which are already existing in Japan, where over 70% out of 266 companies answered to our survey that they see Japan as a highly profitable market. Inward FDI into Japan is growing steadily and reached the highest 4 years in a row. In 2017, it reached 28.6 trillion yen. The government set the target to reach 35 trillion yen in 2020. When comparing the ratio of inward FDI in relation to the nominal GDP volumes, it only accounts for 5.2% in Japan. Comparing to other G7 nations like UK, France, United States, and Germany, it is a low standard. Even comparing to other Asian nations like China and Korea, it is still low. If we compare the inward and outward FDI of Japan, the ratio is about 1 to 6, as shown on the right-hand side of the slide. So there is a huge gap. From these points, it is expected that there are more potentials for inward FDI into Japan, and that is exactly why we are promoting and helping foreign companies to establish in Japan. So who invests in Japan? By region, Europe has the largest investment stock in Japan as of 2017, followed by North America, which accounts for 24%. Looking at the historical data, the stock from Asia has dramatically increased since 2000, about 10 times as large now. The number of the investment projects supported by JETRO has also increased, and in the financial year 2017, it was around 1,700 projects, and the number of the successful projects in the same year reached 193, a record high since 2003. So here is an example of the investment project we supported in the financial year 2017 by the source of investment and its sector. China, United States, and South Korea are the top 3 countries as a source of investment, and the top sector was service sector, which also includes tourism, food service, and education. So JETRO conducted a survey on Japan's investment climate to 266 foreign affiliated companies in Japan last year. When we asked them what the attractiveness of doing business in Japan, the number one answer was the Japanese market itself, especially the market size with high income level and large volume of customers. And about 70% of the foreign affiliated companies showed interest in open innovation with Japanese companies and universities. Especially they are interested in small and medium-sized enterprises and universities, research institutes. Japan ranked first in the Asian nations in terms of R&D base, and the number of foreign affiliated companies in Japan with R&D roles has almost doubled in this decade. So the next topic is about the improvement of the business environment in Japan. Japanese corporate tax is reduced to reach 20% level and is in a similar level with other competitive economies in the world. What is called bedrock regulations are reformed in the sectors like energy, medical, and tourism. And we are now promoting ourselves as a tourism-oriented country, and we received 31 million tourists last year. The increase of the tourists is particularly thanks to the easing of visa requirement to other Asian countries. Since June 2018, Japan launched a project-based regulatory sandbox scheme. Using this scheme, companies can carry out trials freely for new business ideas for a certain period of time without conforming to existing regulations. So finally, I will just briefly introduce our services to foreign companies. If a foreign company has a plan to set up a business entity in Japan, they can apply for our support program, and then if they meet certain criteria, we can provide them consultation services of legislation, tax, and labor issues. We can also let them use our temporary office established inside Tokyo headquarters as well as in other regional offices up to 50 days free of charge. 50. And then we published a report about investment in Japan on our website. So if you are interested, please have a look. Thank you very much for your attention.
And now, questions, remarks, your comments. Please, go on. Oh, you must be very tired. So, I would like to ask a question. We are talking about Japanese today, how they behave, how they look like, etc. Can we understand them? And just we're talking from our personal views. And I would like just to make things on the reverse and ask you, as the Japanese, about how do you perceive the Polish way of doing business with Japan? What is the most annoying, the most irritating behavior of your Polish partners? It may be a provocative question, but I had to ask it.
Thank you for the question. As for my perception of the Polish business people, first of all, our office has 4 Polish employees, but they can speak Japanese perfectly, and they can just act as almost the same as Japanese do. So my supervisor and I are quite satisfied how they work, and we really appreciate how much empathy they can have towards other people, how they can guess what we think, what we want them to do. So the environment of our office is almost what we have in Japan, but and we receive almost 1 businessman on average each day from either Europe or Japan. But what Japanese businessmen who are already working in Poland or who have already some business relationships with Polish companies say that basically it is very it is easier for them to do business with Polish enterprises than with other foreign enterprises, because as the previous presenter said, somehow the mentality, yes, is close. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And another question? So, there's a question. Is Mr. Nukui?
Hello. It is not a question, but my additional comment to the behavior that can irritate Japanese members by Polish staff, because yes, I'm working in Polish-Japanese environment, and I can say 2 things. First of all, we differ from Polish people in sense of time management. The Japanese are very strict in terms of the time management. If some task is set in a timely manner, should be kept. But the Polish people are not able to understand the meaning of time management, and it is the most irritating point for Japanese staff managers. And the second one is the discussion style. And if the Polish managers or staffs are discussing, Japanese are not able to find their conclusion. And yes, Polish people are able to describe in detail the fact, but as group they are not able to share one conclusion. They can long discuss, but not able to find common.
Maybe they are not, ready to share the commitment. It may be like that. Polish are really very individualistic people, so it may be something, a disturbing fact in doing business. Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Yes, I would like to ask about that support you mentioned about today. I mean JETRO support, but I couldn't catch if you meant any financial support in this case, or you are just organizing meetings. And the other question connected with that is also about imbalance in mutual trade between Poland and Japan. So it is to the advantage of Japan, yes, because exports from Japan are much higher for Poland than exports to Japan. That means we have trade deficit with Japan. It's not very surprising, but we could see on the graph that it is not diminishing at all. The third question and my doubts are about that EPA effect. Because you could face something like China faced, that means that if there are any actions as to opening our markets, European market, American market, or in Asia, Japanese, Korean, or Chinese market, the result is that Asian countries are contributing, let's say, less to exports, to imports from Europe or from America or from other parts of the world. I am thinking about what happened in 1970s when Japan was, unfortunately, I would like to mention that because it's a quite of warning, economic animal. That means Japan was named as being economic animal by the president of Algeria during the meeting of UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. So if the result of that EPA would be that Japan will increase GDP and will increase exports to Europe and to other parts of the world having nearly the same agreements. So there would be doubts if Japan is really opened at the same level as Europe is open for Japanese investments and products. So you mentioned here about those meetings organized by JETRO. Of course, JETRO is Japanese External Trade Organization. External trade means export but also imports. I know that until nearly 1980s, JETRO in fact was promoting Japanese exports, not very much imports to Japan. Yeah? So what are actions undertaken by your organization, especially in Poland, as inviting also potential sellers, exporters to Japan? Because here you mentioned about we invited buyers from European Union and Polish also companies, yeah, that could buy something from Japan. Yeah? So do you encourage also Polish maybe sellers, Polish exporters? On the other hand, I know that why Japan should encourage Polish sellers, Polish exporters, or other producers to export something to Japan. That means they have their own organizations, commercial organizations, industrial chambers and commerce, yeah, that should do that in fact, yeah. But I think that to the advantage of both sides, it would be interesting to cooperate together. I mean, JETRO with those industrial and commercial chambers of, in this case, European Union countries, especially now when we are talking about Poland, so with that economic chamber of Poland. Yeah? So do you have such mutual maybe actions, mutual maybe meetings that could promote also exports to Japan? Because you mentioned here about investments, yeah? So inward investments of Japan, that means also from Poland, I mean. But I think that there is not so high percentage of that, because generally Polish companies are not so eager to export capital to Asian countries, because I think that the reason is generally what we are talking today, those cultural differences. Still they are afraid even more than in fact they should be afraid. In my opinion, that technology and those even relations that are that have been developing in last 20, 30 even years. I can observe students coming from Japan, from Asia, how much they are changed. I also had the experience of teaching in Asia and being long time in Japan, and even that time I noticed that young generation is, I can't say totally different from their grandparents and parents, but they are different. Yeah, they are more individualistic. So today, even a student of mine that was asking so many questions, she asked about that individuality. Yeah, that why we do not talk about, and we do not take, especially males, that individuality is important and females are also important, but individualism is important. So she is from China and she's talking about it, yeah? Generally collectivist cultures you are, yeah? But you are changing into more individualism, yeah? That means also we can see students and young people that are, having those, telephones and talking, okay, thank you, in collective and in teamwork, but individual one. Okay, sorry to talk so much.
To interrupt, thank you for a long, a very inspiring comment. And I would like to have help from Okada, Mr. Okada, from Itochu.
This one?
Japan.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I'm the right person to talk about the EU EPA with Japan EU, because from 2012 to 2017, I was in a circle of discussion of this issue in Chamber of Commerce. Could you listen? Okay.
Yes, now.
At that time, for Japanese side, there's one issue. I can say there is a disadvantage of the exports from Japan to EU about the automobile and home electronics against Korea. At that time, Korea has already had concluded the EU EPA, so the tariff is getting less and less and less. But Japanese car 10%, home electronics 14% tax when we export to Japan. That's why most of the Japanese companies invested to Poland, but not for Polish market, but the basement to export. We export to European market. This is the Japanese company strategy first. So even though the export from Japan to Poland is much more than the export from Poland to Japan, nothing problem, because once some imported to here, these goods will be re-exported to European market. So if we combine this, maybe make balance, right? And the European side, there are problems in the EU countries, especially Italy. Italy, they complained a lot because fiat was very strong, very scrawny, right? So Italy was the last in Western countries to be against. And Poland, at first, they were against, because once all products tariff was removed, there's no reason to invest here, because we can produce in Japan and export here, that's it. But however, at that time, Japanese Chamber of Commerce explained that Poland is, we are not talking about the Polish market, but we want to develop the business to Europe, and Poland is the basement. This is the philosophy of the Japanese company. This is the history. And next one, your comment reminded me of my last, how can I say, last comment, not last comment, the last times. At that time, I talked about, how can I say, middle developed countries trap. You know that? I forgot the English name, but when developing country wants to develop to the developed country, the easiest way is to invite the FDI from the developed country, and how can I say, develop the domestic company, but by foreign investment. But in that case, if technology is not transferred properly, that country remains in the middle class. They cannot have the breakthrough. So, about 2 or 3 years back, here, I made a comment. Poland is on the edge from the middle to developed. Yes. For that, at that time also I explained that Japan is a good country to cooperate with, because everybody knows more than 25% of Japanese population is over 65. Everywhere, 80 people. No? And at the same time, there are so many, how can I say, forgotten technologies, yeah, everywhere, because there was no successor, right? There are over 60 years company owners. Their children does not want to work in a factory, but this factory has a very, very, how can I say, sensitive technology, but nobody wants to succeed. If there is some place to, how can I transfer such technology from Japan to here, not here, but also in Southeast Asia, I think it's wonderful. In that case, and for Japanese company, they are aged. And when we, how can I say, invest to other countries, the first is China, definitely. And second, North America. Third is Southeast Asia. And then fourth, very difficult, because we do not have enough manpower. That's why if we want to transfer some Japanese technology from Japan to other areas, like Europe, or my country Argentine, or even Africa, Middle East, maybe no. Yeah. I think Japan or both parties should cooperate to know each other. And last time I really expected that Japan and Poland had a direct flight, which would actually develop the communication level. And 1 year later, direct flight was realized. So I really hope that from now on, Japanese relation between Japan and Poland will be upgraded to the next stage. One thing, in Japan, I explained that Japan in Asia, it is a quite unique country. For example, especially science, in Japan, there is some, test to cure, for example, Alzheimer by medicine, or even
in English, please.
Eh?
In English, say in
Yeah,
English.
it's okay. Yeah, we call it IPS. IPS is, how can I say? The professor can create the human's egg from a skin cell. And from the egg, it can be developed to any other organs. Yeah. So such a technology, there are so many unknown technologies in Japan. So I really hope, I'm now working in Argentine, but I really hope that the communication level between Poland and Japan will be upgraded much more.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. I believe, gentlemen, you will continue your discussion later on, but sorry, I must observe the time because we still have two interesting lectures, and I would like to applaud Ms. Fukaya, JETRO,